The IDF's internal documents, which were just obtained by an Israeli magazine, 972, indicate, this is the IDF's documentation, indicate that 83% of people killed in Gaza, civilians, 83%.
I believe it.
Okay, that's unacceptable. Okay, that is unacceptable. This is the reason why in every interview featuring an Israeli diplomat or some Israeli, mouthpiece propagandist, when they're asked specifically, okay, what is the civilian to combatant death ratio or kill ratio? You get a different answer, or you'll get some evasive nonsense, because they know what the reality is. This is about wiping Palestinians out from that land, whatever remains of the Palestinian people. I mean, they're talking about it out loud. That's the thing that frustrates me. I don't know why Americans refuse to take what the Israeli government says out loud seriously, because everything they said that they were going to do from the very beginning, they're doing. They don't see these people in Gaza as human beings, whether they're children, whether they're women, whether they're elderly people. So yeah, October 7th was awful. Hamas committed atrocities in Israel. There's no question. But there are some big questions that need to be answered, including, why did it take hours, literally hours, for the IDF to respond and save people's lives? We're talking about one of the most sophisticated militaries. You now have IDF soldiers. I'm not saying this. This is testimony on camera from IDF soldiers who say that they were told to stand down on the morning of October 7th. What is that about?
I don't think so, Anna. I just don't believe
it's not me saying it. It's literally an IDF soldier who's testifying about it.
You can say a lot of things, but for the most part, I don't think that in any way the Netanyahu government, they are the idea that they allowed the Palestinians to come in and kill 1,200 of their countrymen is very cynical. I just don't buy it.
Brian, there was literally a New York Times expose on this, though. Like, I wasn't going to cover this segment, so I didn't pull up the link. But the New York Times reported that they had advanced knowledge of this over a course of a year. This is not something that just, suddenly happened. No idea. Like, this is not just the IDF saying. This is actually, the New York Times is still considered to be the most venerable media institution in America. So, and I also wanted to follow up on something you said. It's not necessarily about Israel's survival. I want to be very specific here. It's about Bibi Netanyahu's survival.
Yes, I agree.
This is such an important point. And that is why he also fought so vociferously for Trump's reelection. Because
I would agree with you, Lindy. I would agree with you.
He would have more of more of a blank check to do whatever he wanted.
But I would agree with you, Lindy, if Netanyahu hadn't been consistent his entire life. Bibi Netanyahu was part of Sarayat Matkal. That is like the equivalent of Delta Force he was in the same unit, I think, as Ehud Barak. He's been fighting on the front lines for Israel. His brother was killed in Entebbe. His father raised him to realize that the only way forward for an Israeli is through strength. He's always been very consistent as a warrior. He's always looked at the world as a very dangerous place. And if you are not strong as an Israeli, you die and cease to exist. That I think Netanyahu has philosophically been very consistent.
Okay, Brian, respectfully, just because he's been consistent with this barbarism, does that absolve his barbarism?
It's I suppose, I always think about what it's like to be a warrior, and I go back to that thing where you have to be, it's a world where you have to forgo who you could be for who you have to be. And maybe that's what I'm looking at.
I'm just trying to understand. Are you saying that because he's been brutal over a course of decades, it's okay? I just don't think so. I'm somebody who is deeply sympathetic. They couldn't have found a potentially stronger ally, but every single thing that they've done since October 7th has made me recoil at best and be horrified at worst. And I want to say that there's an Israeli embassy in New York reached out to me and offered me a free trip to Israel that I declined. I suppose that they were trying to recruit me. They said that they weren't expecting anything but for me to keep an open mind.
Lindy, I also learned about this.
The mission was to recruit me as a potential supporter because they know, I'm very vocal online. But I'm just not going to be a propaganda piece for anybody. That's just not who I am.
It sounds like Hamas and Iran were very successful in their mission. I think that their goal was to pull a lot of Palestinian children out of rubble and outrage the world. And Israel's massive response here has been very, very good for its enemies. And I think it's been very bad for the Jewish diaspora in Israel.
I actually agree with that.
I agree with that as well. Yeah, I do agree with that.
I think the person who is single-handedly most responsible for anti-Semitism today is ironically Bibi Netanyahu and his actions.
I would have to agree with that part. And but Brian, I tend to lean more to your line of thinking. And it's like,
Myself shaking my head.
Dog eat dog world kind of a thing. His background and what he's been through. I completely agree with you guys that I am horrified by Bibi's ongoing response. In the beginning, it made sense to me. And now it's like, oh my God, dude, stop. And
I know we're 60,000 people in. Like we should have been done 59,000 people ago.
Here's the other argument, and then I do want us to move on.
Yeah.
The other argument is release the hostages then.
Yeah.
Release. You want it to end? Release the hostages.
Yeah.
Release them. So do we have? Okay, I think have we given final thoughts? Because we've gone on a long time about some of this stuff.
One last thing, there was an Israeli officer who said for every Israeli dead, there should be 50 Palestinian dead. And I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that
last week. So they don't even see Palestinians as equal human beings.
Death to the Jews, death to all Jews, globalize. Like this is I get it. It's horrifying. I just think when we're only showing the evil of one side. Because we could be like, did you see what that soldier said? I could show you it's similar.
Yeah, but
look, I wouldn't have a problem if Israel. Look, I wouldn't have a problem if Israel were specifically going after combatants. I do not believe that they're just going after combatants. When you have an influx of toddlers showing up at the hospitals, every one of which has been bombed, by the way, with bullet holes in the head, bullet holes in the chest, obviously they're being targeted by snipers. They're toddlers. You can't argue, oh my God, one side is evil and one side isn't. No, if you're talking about combatants and you're making that argument about, what's happening in Gaza, okay. That's a fair argument. But when you're essentially conflating the Palestinian people with terrorism, saying they're all terrorists, that essentially justifies the mass slaughter of innocent people. And that's what we're seeing. Again, 83% of the people killed in Gaza, based on the IDF's own documentation, are civilians.
And by the way, it's not just Palestinians and children. It's also Americans, World Central Kitchen.
Humanitarian workers.
What's his full name? People who are going over there to provide humanitarian help are being killed. These kitchens, these mobile kitchens are being targeted. What did they do wrong? What did they do to deserve the hell that Israel has rained down upon them? I just don't understand this.
Final thoughts, guys. Sorry,
what frustrates me is I never know what to believe anymore. Let me give you an example of what children are being killed, absolutely. But you hear a lot of this stuff about a bunch of kids with bullet wounds to their head. And
from American doctors, by the way.
I know they say this, the IDF is targeting children. I just want people to know something about, there's a detail that people don't know. The Israeli sniper rifle, if you were to shoot a child in the head with that sniper rifle, I've done some hunting. There would be no head left. What happens is your head explodes. You don't get a bullet wound in your head. Your head explodes. That's a gruesome thing to talk about. But so when I hear that, I kind of scratch my head and I say, again, all this information, all these anecdotal stories. What I do is this, and to all of your point, Gaza, a lot of Gaza looks like the surface of the moon. There are a lot of children dying. There are a lot of people suffering. Sometimes, can we just stop for a second and make sure these civilians get the water and the food and the shelter they need? Can we get a second? Can we just catch our breath as human beings? Because it's the decent thing to do. Let's hit that button, that stop everything button that we should have hit in October 7th, which is, this cannot stand. This is what you did to Israel. Hamas has got to go, bring back the hostages. But the same goes for when you've got all these children who are starving and et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know, man. You know what? I don't know. How about that?
You'll never get, as you said, it's biblical. So
and then we'll continue to rage. Lindy, you've got a point. I don't know, man.
You actually bring up a really good point, because right now it's on a scale of 1 to 5. Hammond is like.
Last thought on this one. Last thought, okay?
I'm sorry, but this just came out in the last couple of days. Right now, Gaza is like under famine. Number 5, as in it's not approaching disaster, it's failure. As in people will die no matter what, whether help comes or not. Like, it's done.
Thank you so much for watching Her Take. If you like the show, can you help us out by subscribing to the channel, clicking the notification button, sharing, commenting, joining the conversation? It helps us out a ton with the algorithm. We appreciate you.